There is someone in your life right now who drains you. Maybe it's a coworker who takes credit for your work. Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need something. Maybe it's a family member who makes every conversation about them. Maybe it's someone who criticizes everything you do while contributing nothing themselves. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You felt their name in your chest the moment I said that. And here's what's frustrating. You've tried everything. You've tried being nicer. You've tried avoiding them. You've tried confronting them. You've tried explaining how they make you feel. Nothing works. They're still there, still draining, still taking up space in your head even when they're not in the room. But here's what nobody tells you. The solution isn't louder. It isn't more aggressive. It isn't a dramatic confrontation or a long emotional speech. The most effective way to deal with toxic people has been quietly practiced in Japan for centuries, and it doesn't involve fighting, explaining, or even reacting. It involves 5 subtle behaviors. Behaviors so understated that toxic people don't even realize what's happening until one day they look around and realize they have no power over you anymore. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what those behaviors are. And by the end of this video, you will never deal with a toxic person the same way again. Before we get into the 5 behaviors, I need you to understand one thing. Toxic people don't disappear because you fight them. They disappear because you stop being a useful target. You stop giving them the reactions, the energy, and the access they need to keep the dynamic going. These 5 Japanese behaviors do exactly that, quietly, effectively, and permanently. Let's get into it. Behavior 1. Mushin, the art of the empty mind. Here's the first thing you need to understand about toxic people. They need your reaction. That's the fuel. That's what keeps them coming back. When they criticize you, they're waiting for you to get defensive. When they provoke you, they're waiting for you to explode. When they say something designed to hurt you, they're watching carefully to see if it landed. Your reaction, whether it's anger, sadness, withdrawal, or over-explanation, tells them the button works, and they will press it again and again and again. In Japanese martial arts, there's a concept called Mushin. It means no mind, a state of mental clarity so complete that you don't react impulsively to anything. You simply observe. You stay centered. You respond from a place of total calm rather than triggered emotion. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest samurai who ever lived, described it this way. The warrior who can be provoked is already defeated. Here's what Mushin looks like in real life. Someone says something designed to get under your skin, and instead of reacting, you simply look at them calmly. You let the silence sit. You don't defend yourself. You don't explain yourself. You don't match their energy. You just stay completely still. This is not passiveness. This is power. Because the moment a toxic person realizes their words have no effect on you, that their provocations bounce right off, you become useless to them, and useless targets get abandoned. Practice this week. The next time someone tries to provoke you, take one slow breath and say nothing for 5 full seconds. Feel the discomfort of that silence, and then watch how quickly their power over you begins to collapse. Behavior 2. Ma. Strategic silence and distance. You already know what Ma means from before, the meaningful pause, the intentional space. But applied to toxic people, Ma becomes something even more powerful. It becomes strategic distance. Here's something most people get wrong about toxic relationships. They think the solution is confrontation. Have the conversation, set them straight, make them understand. But here's the problem. Truly toxic people don't want to understand. They want engagement. They want your attention, your energy, and your emotional investment, even if that investment is negative. When you argue with a toxic person, you're giving them exactly what they want: attention, significance, a role in your life. Ma teaches something different. Create space. Intentional, deliberate, and unapologetic space.
This doesn't mean ghosting someone dramatically or making a big announcement about distance. That's just another form of giving them attention. Ma is quieter than that. It looks like this. You respond to messages slower, not rudely, just slower. You become busy with things that genuinely matter to you. You stop making yourself available at all hours. You stop explaining your absence. You simply create space and let it speak for itself. Here's what happens when you do this consistently. Toxic people who feed on your engagement find themselves with nothing to feed on, and they naturally drift toward other sources of supply. Not because you fought them off, but because you simply made yourself unavailable. Space is your most powerful weapon, and it costs you nothing. Behavior 3. Haragei, communicating without words. This behavior is subtle, and it might be the most powerful one on this list. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called Haragei, which translates roughly to belly art or gut communication. It refers to the ability to communicate intentions, boundaries, and feelings without words, through energy, posture, presence, and silence. In the West, we're taught that if you have a problem, you need to talk about it, explain it, defend it, justify it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. With toxic people, words give them ammunition. The moment you explain your boundaries, they look for loopholes. The moment you justify your feelings, they argue with your justification. The moment you talk about the problem, they reframe it to make you the problem. Haragei bypasses all of that. It communicates without giving them anything to argue with. Here's what it looks like in practice. When a toxic person tries to pull you into their drama, you don't say, "I don't want to be involved in this." You simply don't get involved. Your posture closes slightly. Your engagement drops. You become briefly busy. Not rude, just naturally elsewhere. When someone disrespects you, you don't say, "That was disrespectful." You simply let the warmth leave your voice. Your responses become shorter. Your smile becomes less available. Nothing aggressive, just a subtle shift in energy that anyone paying attention can feel. Toxic people are actually highly sensitive to energy. They're experts at reading people. It's how they find their targets. When your energy says this person is not available for this dynamic clearly enough, they hear it, even if you never say a single word. Behavior 4. Zanshin, relaxed awareness. This behavior is about something most people never think about when dealing with toxic people: prevention. Zanshin is a Japanese concept from martial arts and archery. It means remaining mind or sustained awareness. Even after an action is completed, the practitioner maintains full alertness, never fully relaxing their guard, never losing awareness of their environment. Applied to toxic people, Zanshin means this: you learn to recognize the early warning signs before the toxicity escalates, before you're already drained, already emotionally invested, already in the middle of a dynamic that's hard to exit. Most people only recognize toxic behavior when it's already deeply affecting them. By then, they're too emotionally involved to see clearly. But with Zanshin, you start noticing patterns early. The person who always has a crisis that somehow needs your involvement. The person who gives you a compliment immediately before asking for a favor. The person who is charming in public and completely different in private. The person who makes you feel guilty for having needs of your own. Zanshin teaches you to notice these patterns without judgment and without drama. You simply observe, you note what you're seeing, and you adjust your level of access and investment accordingly, early, calmly, and without confrontation. Because the truth is, the best way to handle a toxic person is never to become deeply entangled with one in the first place. Not through suspicion or fear, but through clear, relaxed, sustained awareness of what's actually in front of you. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone, not during, after. Do you feel energized or drained, inspired or diminished, seen or used? Your body knows. Zanshin is just learning to listen to it.
Behavior 5. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. This is the deepest behavior on this list, and the most important one. Fudoshin is a Japanese concept that means the immovable mind. Not rigid, not cold, not disconnected, but so deeply rooted in your own values and sense of self that nothing external can destabilize you. Here's the real reason toxic people have power over you. It's not because they're strong. It's because somewhere inside, there's a part of you that needs their approval, that worries what they think, that still hopes they'll change, that keeps trying to make them understand. That need, that open wound, is what they feed on. Fudoshin closes the wound, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by doing the deep internal work of knowing who you are so clearly, so completely, that someone else's opinion of you simply has nowhere to land. When someone criticizes you and you have Fudoshin, you genuinely ask yourself, is this true? If it is, you improve. If it isn't, you let it pass without a second thought, not defensively, not angrily, just, that's not true about me, and I know it. When someone tries to manipulate you and you have Fudoshin, their tactics become visible to you. You can see them working in slow motion, and because you can see them clearly, they stop working entirely. When someone tries to make you feel small and you have Fudoshin, their words don't find the purchase they're looking for, because you're not standing on shaky ground anymore. You're standing on something solid, something they didn't build and cannot take away. Fudoshin is built slowly, through self-reflection, through knowing your values, through doing hard things and discovering you can handle them, through being honest about who you are, both the parts you're proud of and the parts you're still working on. It is the ultimate protection against toxic people, because you cannot manipulate someone who doesn't need your validation. You cannot control someone who doesn't fear your rejection, and you cannot drain someone who knows exactly where their energy belongs. So, let's bring everything together. 5 subtle Japanese behaviors that make toxic people disappear from your life, not through confrontation, not through dramatic exits, but through something far more powerful, becoming someone they simply cannot affect. Mushin teaches you to remove the reaction they feed on. Without your reaction, they have nothing. Ma teaches you to create strategic distance, quietly, without explanation, without drama. Space is your most powerful weapon, and it costs you nothing. Haragei teaches you to communicate your boundaries through energy and presence, giving toxic people nothing to argue with and nowhere to grab hold. Zanshin teaches you to see the patterns early, before you're deeply entangled, through relaxed, sustained, honest awareness. And Fudoshin, the immovable mind, builds the internal foundation that makes all the other behaviors possible. Because when you know who you are truly and deeply, toxic people lose all access to you. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. You are not responsible for fixing toxic people. You are not responsible for making them understand. You are not responsible for sacrificing your peace in the hope that enough patience will change them. You are only responsible for protecting your own energy, for knowing your own worth, for choosing every single day what you allow into your life and what you quietly but firmly stop making room for. The Japanese didn't develop these behaviors as weapons. They developed them as a way of living with such inner clarity and strength that darkness simply has no place to enter. And that's what I want for you. Start with Mushin this week, just one behavior. The next time someone tries to provoke you, breathe, be still, and give them nothing. And watch what happens. If this video gave you something real, subscribe, because every week we bring you the habits, philosophies, and quiet strategies that help you live with more clarity, more strength, and less of what doesn't belong in your life. I'll see you in the next one.